have made it to Stu and the Nunn, an online radio show that looks to inform, educate, and hopefully make you laugh. Stu and the Nunn is a show focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on our show chat room, via our Facebook page, and on Twitter. Like to thank those who make this show possible and allow us to bring it to you. Our show sponsors are Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. And there we go, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn back-to-back nights. A show last night with Dr. Mike Simpson talking about the gentleman, the Special Forces soldiers that got captured down in Venezuela. A long show about that. So for those of you who joined us last night, thank you so much. But we are back again, a double feature. And I'm still in the northern studio, freezing. And Toby is still in the southern studio, staying nice and warm.
I don't know if the lighting in my pad is good enough here for you to see like the sweet kisses of vitamin D and the sun all over my face. Because, you know, like, we're out here fishing. We're out here having a good time, rocking a little Kermode gear. I see you're wearing a little Kermode shirt. In fact, Tim Kennedy was modeling that shirt just the other day on the Twitter, the Instagram and stuff, giving a shout out. Kermode, another one of our sponsors on your head right there, Enlisted 9 Fight Company. Shout out to Colton Smith, Sergeant Major retired Dan O'Brien for doing all the good stuff that they do. But back to back, man, like, yesterday was kind of an interesting show, you know, because it was entertaining, but it was also somber because, you know, a fellow Austinite, we're Austin area, you know, veteran is, you know, in jail in Venezuela. So like kind of a bummer, but also entertaining because like that, the whole escapade has got Netflix written all over it. So, you know, it's really, really interesting. And right now, yeah, like, every veteran and former soft guy in the world is like roasting those cats. So I guess we were part of the pile-on last night.
Well, we were very respectful. We were not.
We were respectful.
We're all soldiers, so we poked fun. We don't let anyone get away for free. We're going to mess with everybody, and we may even be messing with our guests later tonight. But yeah, but it is. But at the same time, we expressed concern and hoping and praying that we are somehow to get those guys back. But it does not look good for sure. But yeah.
No, but back-to-back nights, and
yeah.
You know, like the reason for back-to-back nights is because you know, we have a producer that's, you know, like he cracks it sometimes. He cracks that whip.
He does. He's jamming those.
He's like, you boys need to work. You boys need to work. But
I want to ask you real quick before we get too much farther. You said Tim sported the. Do you think Tim looked as good as I do in it? Do you think? I'm not sure. Like, you know, is there competition here, or should I just drop the headset and walk away? Because I'm sure I'm probably not.
If it's a who wore it better,
yeah. I think
and
Tim
you're
Kennedy
talking about a form-fitting T-shirt. I must have missed the episode that you were on the cover of Muscle Fit. Like I must have missed that. Must have missed that episode.
That was a couple of years ago. Yeah. I think you were in Iraq at the time. You were in Iraq.
Oh, yeah. I was like in Iraq. That's like every time my wife's like, "How come you haven't seen that movie?" I'm like, "What years did it come out?" She's like, if she says 03, 04, 05, 07, or 08, and my answer is like, you know why I didn't see that movie.
Exactly.
But all right, hey, we are back to back because we have an amazing guest on. We've been trying to get her for a minute. We're super excited to have her on here, and that's for a plethora of reasons. We're talking about an extremely intellectual this is why the veteran community is so good. Everyone just assumes that, you know, everyone in the veteran community gets out, starts a T-shirt company, beard oil company, drags their knuckles on the ground, and, you know, like, you know, doesn't really do good except, you know, making, you know, stupid, angry viral videos in their truck by themselves. Like,
on the dash.
That's not.
It's always got to be
on
the
dash,
yeah.
right? Like, I don't know why everyone has to do like the rants in the cars. Like that's like, I'm like, come on, we can do better than that. Like do the rant on the porch,
Let the neighbors see.
which is like Uncle Jimbo's stick, right? He does like the old microphone on the stand on his porch where he gets all poetic with it, the spoken word.
Yeah.
Shout out to, to Jim Hansen of Fox News. But no, this is the good representation. This is the intellectual, the articulate, the informed. This is what we need leading our community, and this is why we wanted to bring her on the show. So without further ado, tonight's guest is Air Force veteran Anna Paulina Luna. She is a candidate for Congress. She is a wonderful spokesperson and a wonderful example of what the veteran community has to offer. She's running for the 13th Congressional District of the state of Florida. So we're going to hear about that. And, I believe, like she's, rocking the Zoomy, like proud right now. She's got the old Air Force on there, letting everyone know. So welcome to the show, Anna Paulina Luna.
Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be here today.
Awesome. I forgot to warn you ahead of time that Toby is the ultimate fanboy of most of our guests that come on. He gives you a heck of he wants to get a hype man job. He keeps trying.
I am trying to be a hype man. Like my kids are like,
I might
hey,
steal you from Texas. I don't know. Florida has a lot of sunshine, so.
So I've lived in Florida. I've spent quite a bit of time in Florida. Florida's got near and dear to my heart, and Florida unfortunately lost the towing costs. When I was getting out of the Army, I literally flipped a coin to decide between Texas or Florida. And, Texas won. It's my friends that are in Florida are kind of bummed out. I lived in multiple places in Florida. I lived the Naples Marco Island area for many years, for several years. And then the Army had the decency, the absolute decency, to let me spend a little bit of quality time in the Central Florida area in Orlando. And I built some of the best relationships I've, in terms of like the community and stuff. I just love that area. I love the laws. I'm a Canadian, so like Florida and Texas, I think, are the best examples of the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights. I think both of those states respect it. Neither one of them have state income tax because they're smart enough to know how to budget shit. So like, shout out to like legislators. Shout out to the state.
Well, we're actively facing, I know even at the state level, a lot of outside groups coming in and pouring in money for anti-gun legislation. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, you might like how it is now, but if you don't actively get involved and stay informed, it might not stay that way, especially in places like Florida and Texas, where you have people moving from other states coming to your area. And they are targeted because they are needed for presidential elections. Obviously, they're some of the biggest states in the country. So I stay very, very informed on that. And that's actually in part, veterans issues and gun rights are correlated. You have a lot of red flags that target veterans. And so that's something that I've been very vocal about. And maybe we segue into it a little bit more on the show, but it's definitely something that I keep my eye on, that's for sure.
Well, so let's talk about what you keep your eye on the closest, and that's the 13th Congressional District of Florida. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your district? Let us know about her heartbeat. Let her know about who she is and what she stands for in terms of the greater scheme of Florida.
So I'd have to say that so in general, for those of you who might be tuning in or might not be from Florida, it's on the west coast of Florida. So it encompasses Pinellas County, which is basically about 20 minutes from Tampa. So we have a lot of retirees. We still have a lot of active duty members that are actually stationed at MacDill, my husband being one of them. But the community as a whole, it's very unique because you have a really urban and densely populated area, but we're also right next to the beach. So you get a lot of tourism, you have a lot of fishing industry. You kind of have this crossover between, I'd have to say, your more moderate Democrats and then your conservative base. So as a toss-up as a whole, you just get this kind of almost clash, right? Like if you go to the Panhandle area, it's a lot different. If you go down to Miami, it's completely separate. And you just have this kind of unique crossover area that you would call the Florida 13th Congressional District. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm originally from California. And I basically enlisted at 19. And once I set foot in Florida, I said, oh my God, I'm never going back to California. For one, the beaches are incredible.
That was a good
And
choice. Good
the
choice.
people are nicer.
White powder. White
Yeah,
powder.
the beaches are really nice and the people are a lot nicer. And I've loved it and I fell in love and I basically decided to make my home here. So that's why I'm running here.
Well, that's what we like to hear. I have a big love in my heart, for the West Coast of Florida. I like we were talking earlier, I had spent some time, got to live in, Naples, Marco Island area. Just it is the most beautiful beaches, the great people. And, I love, there's so many stories, great stories about, hurricanes. And the reason I say they're great stories is because, for a period of time, I did some hurricane relief work down there. And a hurricane hit right near Marco Island and Naples area and shot all the way across the state. And at the time, I'd come off active duty and I was on the guard but activated. And our unit, helped work from the West Coast to the East Coast. And when we landed in Naples, which was the epicenter where the eye of the storm hit, trees down, power lines down, police officers directing traffic, people looking in on their neighbors. And, we're there with chainsaws, clearing streets, doing all that stuff. I got some people that I consider my family. Shout out to my Naples family. And I go to check on, the lady that's like my American mom and, make sure she's okay. And her and her neighborhood are in their backyard, cleaning out the screen from the lanai and stuff. You got the grill fired up. They're pouring wine, they got the generator fired up. And they're taking care of themselves, and then, you go. And like I said, the police responded. They were on the street corners, making sure that traffic was safe. The power lines weren't going to electrocute people, checking in on the it was just amazing to watch. And that was the eye of the storm hit there. In contrast, we get to the East Coast and completely different mentality. No one could help themselves. Everyone was dependent on somebody else doing something for them. And it was wow, this is two different countries.
Yeah,
and Texas is, a huge state. Florida's a huge state. California's a huge state. I think they're the only 3 states in the country that it takes 8 hours to drive across, right?
Oh, I mean, it takes away. You go to the top panhandle of Florida and you're going out to the Keys. It's an all-day event. But I can say, I wish people knew more of Florida than just the Florida man stories. Or, the Tiger King, which is now everyone says, oh my gosh, Tampa, that's where Carol Baskin lives. No, I'm not. She's not one of my donors. I swear, guys. I can't even go anywhere. That's
a new thing, right? You could actually, depending, your opponent, that, you have a whole thing right there. You're like, Chris Christie took money from Carol Baskins.
I feel like especially out here too, it's you have so many people. So because we are so close to a military base, I mean, you have MacDill, you could sneeze and you're going to be at MacDill. There's so many people from this area that have basically decided to kind of do what I did, right? You get out of the military, you decide that you want to stay there. And then it's basically just something about it. You can go anywhere else in the country. And I know you guys might be partial to Texas or to New York, but something about Florida, it's just, the weather. I don't know if it's just because I'm traumatized from being stationed in Missouri, but I definitely, there's no way I'm leaving anytime soon. So when it came time to, run, obviously I'm not going to go back to California to do that. California is a whole nother topic, but it's one of those things that I think, especially right now, this should be and is historically a Republican district. And I think that the people of Pinellas County have a choice to make. And, moving forward, especially on an election year with President Trump really fighting like heck to get into office against all of the false news that we get on a regular basis. And it does exist, someone who works in media, that is a thing. It's going to be a chance for these people to make a change. And, I am running against the fundraiser of the DCCC. So for what people might not know what that is, that's the Democrat Congressional Committee that basically gives money to Democrat candidates to keep them in office.
And you're running against the guy that fundraises for all of them.
Fundraises for all of them. He's taken a large amount from George Soros. He's been a Republican, then he switched to an independent. Now he's a Democrat. And then this year, apparently his people had reached out to the Florida GOP for him to come back as a Republican. So he doesn't really care about any party. He's not loyal to any party. He's loyal to himself. And what really upsets me is that you have such a large concentration of veterans here. You have Bay Pines, which is one of the nicest VA hospitals in the country. And this guy's literally done nothing for veterans. And because I'm now in this race and I'm running, he's tried to start a veteran coalition panel. He's saying that he's really active within the vet community. Yet you see what he's done with red flag laws. Yet you see he's actively chosen to, in multiple circumstances, give funding to illegals over veterans. And that's not right. It's not necessary. And I think that for someone like him, who's been in office for 30 years, it's time for him to go. It's not, and it was never the intent of the founding fathers for people to make it a lifetime appointment in office, and it's time for him to go.
So would you say that you believe in term limits then for members of Congress, both houses?
Yeah, I've actually already signed a term limit pledge, and I think that part of the problem is that you have people, a president can only run for 2 terms, 8 years at most, and then he's gone. But it's the people that are in the House and the Senate that are there pre-existing and after that are the problem. They're the ones that are blocking legislation. They're the ones that don't want to make change. And that change is needed, especially as we move forward. I mean, we're seeing in certain parts of the country, you saw how different responses were in California and Kentucky and even in Michigan, where there was absolute government overreach. And you did have people like veterans who could even attend, gym sessions or therapy sessions. Isolation is a killer for people diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And then you have people saying, hey, you can't go out to the park with your son or daughter or else we're going to arrest you. Yet they let people come here illegally, and they literally charge sex offenders out of jail, and yet they're jailing American citizens that are either trying to be with their family or trying to make $1. That's not right. And so I am for term limits. I've signed a term limit pledge. And again, this is not an easy job. This is something that I consider service to country. And I can tell you that it's very difficult. You get attacked on a regular basis. I mean, it's a 24-hour job, so I don't want to do it forever. I think people that do it forever are sociopaths.
No, you have a very, very good point. There's definitely, when you think of like the powers of incumbency, the number one power of incumbency is fundraising. The number 2, name recognition. This guy has held every office, like
for every party.
Yeah, like it's just like if ever there was like a testimony to career politician, that this is it, right? So opening up, and that's what's like so cool is like here you are up front. You're like, no, I don't want to be a career politician. I don't want my my children to have to deal with, like the stupid attacks. I don't want to have my husband harassed at this thing. I don't want, my family to have to endure these stupid things because, and let's be honest, in the past, like couple years, those harassments, those attacks, have gotten quite unfriendly
in public places.
Yeah. We're no longer like slinging mud in print. We're no longer making innuendo during a television commercial or on a television debate, a televised or recorded debate. We are now like actively seeking people out in public and harassing them, shouting them down. We are like attacking them while they're on a family vacation on a plane, trying to go to Disney World for Christmas. We're like, while they're eating dinner, the decorum is, the civility, as our good friend Matt Goss would say, is
different. And especially if you're a conservative, especially if you're running as a Republican, and those are 2 different things, right? Like I am a conservative first, then I'm a Republican. It's interesting that you bring that up because I literally just got a questionnaire earlier, and this questionnaire was for a candidate profile piece, but they're asking my parents' names, my siblings' names. I'm not going to give that to you. My parents and my siblings are not running for office. Okay, I am. So if you have an issue with me. That's not with my family. And I'm not going to put people in the crossfire of something that I consider political slander, just because you want to make your job easier to kick up dirt. So yeah, I'm not going to put my family out there like that. And I think I've been one of those anomalies in the sense that I actually put out everything about myself before I ran. I said, look, I am from this lifestyle. I'm a veteran. I had to join the military for a reason. I did not come from a great area. I went to 6 high schools. I had family members, to include my own father, that were in and out of jail, extensive drug use with my family. And I love that. And I'm trying to help the country. And so I put that all out there so they can attack me, but they're going to look like jerks doing it. And I mean, some people are embarrassed by that. I'm not. I don't really care. And I'm a firm believer in that when you own stuff and you are true to yourself, then running for office, you really only deal with attacks. Other than that, I sleep well at night because I know what I say is truthful and I know what I stand for, and that is what matters to me.
Well, you know.
So do you mind it?
Oh, go ahead, Toby.
Sorry, Troy. Do you mind if I ask you what type of entity asked for that kind of information? Because that's more than just basic demographical information. Like, yeah. So as a candidate profile,
it was a local paper here that profiles, and they're very liberal leaning.
Media.
Like,
we need to know. Like, yeah. There's only one. Like, I'm not a conspiracy guy, Troy. Everyone will tell you. Like, I'm the least tinfoil guy that is ever on the show. But the only reason you want that information, that's not to like say, like, daughter of, proud daughter of.
No, it's to try
like that. That is to track down. That is to her. Yeah.
I also had another interesting thing, and this seriously happened. So like, I've worked in media as a commentator. I've talked to some of the most, in my opinion, prolific thinkers currently. Like Mayor Rudy Giuliani, I talked to him for a good time. And that man is a patriot. He's awesome. But one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from my friend who's a writer for the Daily Caller. And he goes, and this was when I first announced that I was running. He goes, I know you've worked in media and I know that, you kind of have your feet wet in regards to how everything works. He goes, but he's like, as your race continues, he's like, 'cause this is going to be a high profile race. He's like, make sure that if you sit down with any liberal leaning news outlet that you record it. He said, if they're going to record it, you're going to record it. And he's like, and even if they don't want to record it, he's like, you should record it anyways. And at first I didn't really understand why he was telling me that. And then I actually was announced as an on the radar candidate for the Republican Party. And this was not just a tiny announcement. This was a huge deal because the money for my race is coming from people. I was able to raise, in the middle of the international pandemic, over $220,000 from people, and a quarter for my race, which was the most ever reported for this race and for this seat. And that was for the primary. And no sooner did that come out, I actually had Vice magazine reach out to me. And Vice said, hey, we'd like to do a piece on your candidacy. And I said, okay, that's fine. I was like, but just so you know, I'm going to be recording this. And the minute I said that, because I asked them about how they were going to edit it, and I saw, some stuff that they had done in the past, and I said, look, I mean, you're a producer, you sound like a nice guy. I was like, but I'm going to record what I'm saying, if you're going to record what I'm going to say, so that you can't edit it and take what I'm saying out of context. And they canceled the interview the next day. So yes, they do try to do that. And you can guarantee I have to have my own back. So when I saw that today, I was like, I called my campaign manager, I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to give us information. This is nonsense. I don't have to do it. They can find this off. They can look this up on Google if they want it, but I'm not going to spoon feed it to them.
Yeah, they can sign up for Ancestry.com and try to find it out that way, right?
Yeah, go ahead. I already got my DNA done because, I'm lighter skinned and I happen to be half Hispanic. I knew someone down the line is probably going to be like, you're not really Hispanic. Well, I bet you my DNA results I am, and I'll make them, I don't know, donate $10,000 to my favorite charity before I reveal my results.
Well, a lot more than 1,024th, I'm sure.
Oh, actually, I'm literally I think 2% sub-Saharan African. So I'm actually more black than Elizabeth Warren is Native American. But to kind of piggyback off that, when people are or have family members in Mexico, either there's Spanish and Indian blood mixing, right?
Right.
So I actually do have about a quarter of Native American ancestry because of that. Just 3 of my 4 grandparents are either from Mexico directly or of Mexican descent. So
if you ever have to debate against her or compete or anything, that you got to have that one in your hip pocket. You have to have that trump card. Yeah, like, I am more black than you are a Native American.
Literally.
But no, I mean, that's you highlight some important things for our listeners and viewers who probably aren't aware of those type of things that get asked of people. And it's you're getting hit with all kind of interview requests. And yes, when you get identified by the National RNC as what they call you, a young gun.
Yeah.
You're definitely, that's putting you on a lot of radars, but especially the other side's radar. Now going against the Charlie Crist, the big a well-known name in Florida and even on the national stage in some aspects, and that kind of stuff. What I guess I'm kind of curious what motivated you, or being a service member and reading your profile that I have and everything. I have no doubt you didn't go into this but to do nothing but win it. You didn't go in half stepping. You didn't go in as like I'm going to throw my just see how it works out and figure out what it's like. No one puts themselves under this kind of scrutiny to not go in to win it all. What motivated you to say I'm going against a monster powerhouse fundraising thing here? How am I going to compete against this?
I worked in, I think my turning moment was I was cycling on a Fox News segment, and, I was happy with the segment. It came out fine, but I realized that every single day I was having to send talking points, these producers. And, no shade at Fox or anything, but I realized that was someone else deciding what I would be able to talk about if they decided to book me for that segment that day. And I realized that, the one thing that every single news channel, that Drudge Report, all these news outlets were following, what was happening at Capitol Hill with people like AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib and even Matt Gaetz and, Jim Jordan. And so if I wanted to change the national discussion, I had to run for office, get into office, and then make these people report on what I was doing. And so that was I think at that point where I realized, if I want to make a change, I do think, being in media in it as a whole, it is hard because you're already on a regular basis. It's mentally taxing. You're getting attacked regularly. But I knew that I could do it. I know that, in the circles that I was in, there's not enough veterans. I tell veterans, if you're a vet, like even if you can run at a local level, whether it's for school board, whether it's for mayor, whether it's for county commissioner, like do it because it makes a difference. And there are certain things that I don't care if you were a cook to special operations, to infantry, to an admin job, you're going to learn certain leadership skills, or at least how to organize and how to put people together to accomplish a certain goal and task. And so I realized that I had a different set of qualities that I think most had. I have the cards, as you could say, to play against a lot of people that use identity politics against conservatives.
You've got a lot of blocks checked. You've got a lot of blocks checked, just like Gabby does.
On paper, right? I was accepted into medical school. I was a biology major, which is a STEM degree. I'm half Mexican, which means I'm a minority woman. I'm a United States Air Force veteran that's been honorably discharged. Like I even attended an online course at Harvard Medical for epidemiology. Like I know I can flex with those cards. And so I said, I'm going to run, and I know what I'm putting myself out to do, and it's up to people to decide if they like me or not the establishment in DC. It's not up to the gatekeepers. I can take this guy on, and I'm ready to throw down. And so I basically made my campaign commercial, and I basically jumped on the campaign trail. There's no how to run for office, especially as a Republican. I'm not funded by Justice for Democrats, right? So I wasn't casted for this position. I actually had to seek it out, figure out how to do it, and actually do it. So it's been great so far. We've been, making incredible moves, especially during COVID, which is, I think, what a lot of people didn't anticipate. And really this strategy of grassroots campaigning, it's still a factor. But now moving forward into 2020 and into this digital age, you have to have social media. So I've been able to fundraise online, carry my messaging. So even if hit pieces do come out against me, which they already have, people know that I'm the front runner for this race. And so they're trying to throw all this fake crap out there. But I can just go put the truth on my social media, kind of like Donald Trump does.
Right.
And I can go directly to the people. And that's my response. And sometimes my platform dwarfs some of these crap platforms. So, I mean, if you really want to go up against people that know me, go ahead. But you're going to be poking a beehive. So.
Well, and he's set the precedence, right? And he set the standard for using social media to get the message out. And I think people are all tuning to it, right? How many millions of followers does he have that when he tweets something or whatever, not just him, but those that used to serve, Trey Gowdy, Ted Cruz, so many, they, just like people use Twitter to talk to their favorite, reality star or singer or actor, they're now able to interact directly with a politician, whether it get into, or even a budding one, whether to be getting a fight or to show their support or whatever. So I mean, it is, social media has definitely given way to grassroots campaigning. I think, in my opinion, coming back completely, right? It is put it back in the power there.
It has, but then also too, there's a double-edged sword to it. So yes, it gives you a platform, but it also puts a target on your back. So because I am, to date, I've worked with some of the most incredible conservative and I'd say powerful organizations currently in Washington, D.C. that are really working to do national outreach and further the conservative and constitutional agenda, which we should be adhering to, but there's a lot of progressive hijacking of that. I've been censored, and I think you're verified on some, but not on the others. Twitter, I'm the only candidate in my race for this primary that's not verified. And Twitter actively has suppressed me twice to where Breitbart ran stories on it. In one instance, there was a cover shot that was posted by a gentleman named Diego Aria, who's the former United Nations Security Council president. He was also a very, very successful and well-known politician in Venezuela, and he's super anti-socialist and super anti-Maduro. And he actually posted this shot of me with the dog from Ballistic Magazine, and in Spanish he wrote, Ana Paulina Luna, Republican candidate running in Florida. And it was a shout out to me because part of my platform is that I'm pro-life, pro-God, pro-gun, and anti-socialist. And Twitter kicked me off. They removed they shadow banned his tweet. They actually put a warning up on it saying that it was like a danger to the community. And that was a former United Nations Security Council president. So it's happened on a regular basis where Instagram removed my donation link 30 times. Facebook said that my campaign ad was a danger to the community, wouldn't let me fundraise off of it or run it. And then Twitter won't verify me. And they also said that apparently a tweet that I put out that the NRA had posted and was trending after the El Paso shooting was also a danger to the community. And the tweet literally read that I'm a United States Air Force veteran, I'm Hispanic, and I'm a woman, and I won't go along with the socialist agenda to ban firearms, stop making El Paso political. I was kicked off Twitter for 13 hours, and that's why they won't verify my account.
Hey, I want to circle back.
Wow.
I want to get back to this too, but I want to circle back real fast because you were talking about veterans and the need for them, for us, to be more engaged in leadership, especially in our community. I couldn't agree more. I care about, my local school district, I'm like active in an ongoing campaign there. But have you seen any support from some of the current seated members of Congress that are veterans? Have any of them reached out? I mean, you got Brian Mast right in the state of Florida right there. Has he reached out at all? Or has any of, like guys like Tom Cotton or anyone like that said, hey, come on, girl, let's go. Like you're on our team. Let's do this.
The only congressman to date that's actually shown support for me has been Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz
Really?
met with me. He sat down with me. He talked to me, and it was basically within 10 minutes. He was like, I'm going to endorse you. Like, we need you. And Matt Gaetz
Awesome.
is also an American first, not bought politician who's basically proven that, one, he is absolutely in line with what the president believes, but also, two, he also announced recently that he would no longer be taking PAC money. And I think that that's a huge, huge thing, especially right now when you're looking at the fact that people on both sides, sometimes you wonder why they're pushing this legislation. We'll follow the money trail. By the time some people get into office, they're so bought by outside interest groups that how could they ever represent the American people or the people in their district? And so that's why I'm a threat. That's why they don't want to verify. That's why I think that I'm not being welcomed, with open arms by certain people. And I'm okay with that. I'm not going to DC to make friends. I have enough friends. And I'm also not going to establish a lifetime connection, to that job. I'm going to get things done. I have an agenda. I want to complete it. I want to work with Gates to do it. I want to work with the president. And I'm okay with that. And, because of that, I think I've been identified also by good people. And so I actually spoke with Mayor Rudy Giuliani twice for an extended amount of time. And, it's good when you know that you have people like that in your corner. The rest of them, I'm a quality, not quantity person.
So, well, you said, like you have an agenda, you're there to get down to business. Let's hear it. Like what we heard earlier, pro-life, pro-Christian, pro-gun, like let's hear what you want to do there. Let's see how you're going to represent the 13th Congressional District of Florida.
Well, the first thing is, especially right now here, like I can talk on locally to this area, you have people that are very vocal about pushing a carbon tax, especially on the small businesses, and that they care about the environment. I'm a firm believer in that you can care about the environment, but you don't have to believe that the world's going to die in 12 years and that we need to pay carbon taxes or push the new Green Deal. I consider myself a green conservative. I recycle. I avoid plastics where I can. I'm also a firm believer that if you want to actually help people make changes and help businesses make changes, especially in regards to using recyclable materials, you have to do it through a tax cut. And that's a good thing because it ends up not only helping them hire more employees, take that money, reinvest it into their companies, but people are more inclined to want to do something for the good if you're rewarding them, not if you're going to punish them. And so it's something that not only helps the community, but it helps the environment long term. And I think that nationally, that's something that really conservatives and Republicans have had that stolen from. We know Teddy Roosevelt was one of the first conservationists, and he was a Republican. And I think that we need to, one, rebrand the image, but then also, two, you have this aspect of in the state of Florida, and here you have people pushing anti-gun legislation. Going back to my upbringing, I walked into an armed robbery at 9 with my dad in a not so nice area. By the time I was 12, I had had a cousin that was murdered. At 16, one of the 6 high schools I attended was Venice High School. There was a gang shooting on campus while I was there. And then I eventually joined the military, and maybe like 2 months after I moved off base, I had a female roommate, and I had a guy break into my house when he thought I was home alone, and my buddy chased him out. So not at any one of those times did I ever think that guns were the issue. I basically realized that it was people that were the problem. And it was after I got my concealed carry that I realized, hey, this is actually making me feel safe. I'm kind of a tiny human. So there's no way, if you were to come at me and you were mad at me, I'm not going to be able to physically take you on, but I can stop you with my 9mm. So, I want to do a national concealed carry. I don't believe that you should have militarized police and that citizens should ever be less powerful than government, especially when it comes to firearms. So I want to make sure that this anti-gun legislation, that there's a voice for that. And I feel like people are so weak. You actually have veterans that are in DC that are soft on the gun issue. And they say, well, it's a weapon of war and this, that, and the other. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Second Amendment is pretty simple. And it's not to be reinterpreted. It says what it says for a reason. And just because you're in DC now doesn't mean that this makes you any more powerful than the Constitution. So I'm a very, very big advocate for the Second Amendment. I want to fight against red flag laws. And I want to make sure that veterans are taken care of, especially being that red flag laws, how they're currently written, do target veterans. It says anyone who's considered or who has a labeled mental health condition. And when you actually read that legislation, you see that post-traumatic stress disorder.
Straight to it.
Straight to it, yeah. Post-traumatic stress disorder is considered a mental health condition by the American Psychiatry Association, which means that anyone who's seen war, if they decide that they might have PTSD and you're flagged with it, not only can you not get the therapy that you need because now you're afraid of losing your Second Amendment right, but you're also now considered a threat to society. And so that's scary because why should we ever trust our government to, one, make decisions for us, and then also, two, on the back end, why would you ever want to target veterans unless you had a really crappy plan for the American people? So I think that needs to be firewalled off immediately. And then the third thing I want to do is I really want to help target the Hispanic conservative vote and stand up leaders on that aspect. You have the largest voting minority in the country that's being told that, it's considered racist to support strong immigration policies and literally a secure southern border. I've worked extensively to research human trafficking. I've read the State Department reports that they put out. I've talked to Border Patrol. I've talked to ICE. I've talked to DEA. I've talked to law enforcement all at the borders, and they say that there's so many drugs coming through. There's so much human trafficking that we have to do that. So that would be my third thing, that I want to help the president solidify security at the southern border, stand up leaders within the Hispanic community, and then I'm retiring.
I'm ready to move to the 13th Congressional District of Florida.
Yeah, I'm just retiring after that.
I'm ready to go. I want a couple things I want to hit on. We got one question from the chat. I'm going to get to that, but what I want to ask is, because on your website, you've talked about, right, what your heritage is, and you are a Latina woman, and you have talked on there that you are looking to go in there to be that alternate voice to AOC, right, who projects herself as this champion of Latina female rights, and she's the voice, and she speaks for all these people. What are your thoughts on how you're going to take her on? Are you just giving people a choice to say, see, it's not just one way? There are, you can be a conservative and be from, Hispanic descent, or what's your plans to kind of take her on?
I think so. I'm actually already doing, I think, a lot nationally that's really kind of moving the ideology with the Hispanic base through multiple organizations, right? Like I don't just work with one organization, and I'm also not suppressing people. I'm using my platform and my connections to really build up the platforms of other people who are leaders in the communities, because one, you can't just be the leader of the only movement. That's one, really dangerous. And then two, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And three, the Hispanic community, you know, not everyone's Mexican, not everyone's Puerto Rican, Dominican, Cuban, Colombian. Everyone's different. So you need people from ththose communities to do the outreach to their community. So I'm helping lift up those platforms. But the thing is with someone like AOC is that you have a young Hispanic female that is from, or says they're from Brooklyn, even though I think that they've proved that she's actually not from that area. And I think she grew up in like a middle class area. She can't be called out by someone like, for example, I'll use him for example, like Dan Crenshaw, right? Because immediately after he calls her out, she's going to say that he's racist because he's an older white male. And so she'll say that she's being bullied. So you have to fight fire with fire. You can't just have people, even though it shouldn't be like that. It should not be the case that that's the first thing that we talk about is race when we get into these conversations, but it is. And that's how the media has engineered it to be. So what we have to do is we have to have people that can be surrogates for those messages, right? I think the same way that you do. I think the same way that I think a lot of people do. I'm just packaged and boxed a little bit differently so I can help convey that message. But I would like to be on the floor of the House and debate her, and I would like to talk to her, and I would like to put those facts out, because the strongest thing and the most powerful thing that you can do is speak the truth. And when you have people that are still not willing to accept that, that's when you know it's cognitive dissonance. They shut down, and then that's when you know you've won, because you're putting the information right in front of them, and they'll know after that conversation, words are powerful. They'll still be thinking about what you're saying even after the incident's over. And so that's the most powerful thing that you can do is fight that with the truth. And that's what I plan on doing.
Awesome. Okay. Toby, I want to ask can I ask the one from the chat, or you want to go?
Yeah, I'll ask it in just a second. I just want to follow up on that real fast.
Nope,
because sorry, Trey, the reason I want to follow up on this real fast is because that person in particular has never actually debated anybody. And the reason why I say that is because any opportunity there is to have actual dialogue, and I'm talking about on the floor, she only has A to B conversations. She sends, you receive. There's no feedback. When you look at the model of basic, human communication, there's like, I send message, you receive message, you react and send me, feedback. Like that doesn't happen. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen any example of her engaging in dialogue with anybody. Like she only when she gets behind the pulpit or she's behind the microphone on committee, she asks questions. She doesn't debate. She doesn't she does it. And then if she doesn't like the response, I control my time. This is my time. Yes or no. But she's actually never debated anybody.
I know for a fact that she's actually seen stuff on my candidacy. She's actually checked into it, or I've seen it via Instagram, and I saw screenshots of her reading into it. And so, or like her looking at posts about me. And so the thing is that I know she knows I'm on the radar. And what's interesting is she can't say that I'm a DC insider. She can't say that I haven't worked to be where I'm at. She can't say that I'm racist. So it'll be interesting awesome. Because my campaign, not that I engineered it to be like this, but my campaign is literally, if you were to look at it, I'm going up against a 30-year establishment Democrat incumbent, and I am a grassroots candidate, and I am up against the odds, but guess what? I'm still winning. So it'll be, and as you'll see, our primary's in August, and as it pushes closer to that, we have a ton of veterans in this area, and I'm going to those veterans because I need them during the primary. Be like, look, guys, I mean, I am who I am. Like, I'm not getting outside money to say this. I genuinely believe it. Here's my work. Here's who I am. And, my opponents, they probably don't like me, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to win. So
no. And that's the best part. And the reason I say this is the best part is what we have going on now is people don't want to actually engage in dialogue. They want to do research and they want to troll. They want to nitpick. They don't want to actually engage in dialogue. They don't want to solve the problem. And the job of a representative is to represent the people, to solve problems, to find those gaps. We have a question from our chat room here. It looks like the fine Lieutenant Colonel Derek Gooding. How do you feel about some of the overreach that's been going on during this COVID-19 pandemic?
I actually did a segment with Charles Payne, on Fox Business. Charles Payne is actually also a veteran. I don't know if you guys know that. He's really cool. But I did a segment and I actually titled it that, the police state, because you do have certain areas that have basically turned into police states. You should not be arresting people for being, for example, out at a park, or in Texas. You should not be arresting people because they were trying to cut hair in the privacy of their home and keep their employees fed and food on the table for them. You should not be arresting people because they're out jogging at the beach. But yet you're telling me, after hours, some of these people were even implementing curfew. And I know that happened in Tampa. What is COVID only operational between the hours of 9 to 5? And then once it hits dark, it's can't infect you anymore. Like COVID's not a vampire. So, you have these situations that have occurred, and then people within those community that you have the sheeple, and then you have the people who are like, okay, this is not okay. Just because we're in a international pandemic doesn't mean your constitutional rights go away or turn into toilet paper. So I think that it was very smart for some people to become vocal on it. I know I did, and I only wish more people did. But it was interesting because if you became too vocal on it, then you saw your engagement on social media drop, and then certain postings were being flagged. So you have that information war. And so that's when it's like, okay, at a certain point, how do you combat the social media censorship with getting your message out there and then going up against the establishment? And so I will let you guys know as soon as I successfully complete this campaign how it went.
Well, we know you're going to successfully complete it.
Oh, yeah.
In defense of Texas, the governor of Texas, the fine gentleman, Greg Abbott, he went on record today with an executive order that he is backdated to ensure that all those, the two ladies that were caught in the sting operation, which the fact that there was a sting operation,
so wrong.
And then the lady that stood up to the local judge in Dallas and defied his order. Really, she went to jail not because she defied his order. She went to jail because she would not apologize.
I know. Think about that. This judge told this woman, you cannot go to jail or you can apologize. Who are you?
Yeah, no. And they want her to bend the knee. She's not, God bless her. I think they got, almost, I think they're at $200,000 now that people have donated, to
I would sue the city.
She's got a great thing. And, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, made it retroactive and said that you cannot imprison somebody for defying this order. And he made a very blatant statement about it. He's like, we are not releasing criminals so that we can put law-abiding citizens in jail for trying to feed her family.
Yeah.
And then the fact that we were targeting people over this. The whole Texas has been really good. Texas, and of course I'm biased. Texas has been really good through this whole COVID-19 thing. The one chink in the armor that Texas had was the salons. And the reason the salons were an issue is because there is a specific license that you must have, and they revoked everyone's license. And so they didn't revoke teaching certificates. They didn't revoke school board certifications. They didn't revoke restaurants. They didn't they didn't revoke TABC, which is the Texas Alcohol and Beverage Commission. They didn't revoke people's bar licenses, liquor licenses. The only license that they actually revoked was the barber license, and that the barber license is, the whole, and it covers everything. It covers, hairstylist all the way down to manicurist, and so all the way down, right? They didn't revoke your dental assistant license. They didn't revoke your paramedic license. The only license they revoked was this barber license, and they revoked it. And then with that revocation came a mandatory fine per infraction, and then subsequent further suspension of your license. And so all of a sudden, because they revoked this license, they created this monetary opportunity where it's like, oh, you're going to fine someone $5,000 for cutting hair? Let's go get them. And they do this sting operation and got those two young ladies, which is crazy, for trying to get someone to make a little bit of money in their home.
I thought it was nice that the attorney general came out, was like, this is not okay. Like, we're calling for the immediate release of these people, and as they should. But the point is that you have people who thought that they could do that because they're given a little bit of power. So it's like, if you see this happening during this, could you imagine how much of a power trip people on who have been in office for 30 years?
Well, one thing that's being said,
look at Michigan. Like, I don't want you going down this aisle in a store. Like, you can't possibly buy seed.
Right.
You can't, whatever it is, fertilizer.
So I'm grabbing my charger real quick. Hold on.
Yeah. No, Toby hit on one thing, was, someone brought up, like, if I think it was one of our chats, was, look what's happening in this thing. What if there was a real national emergency? I mean, look what they've done. Look at the rights they've taken. They've essentially shredded the Constitution. I live in the socialist state of New York, right, where it has been the worst hit by this pandemic as far as deaths. But it also has come out today. It is also now, they're saying, they're tracing back the DNA of this virus, that pretty much most of the virus that spread through this country came from New York City and people traveling from here. They came out today saying Seattle had a small bit, but it was the travel from New York that really reached the entire country. They're tracing everything back to New York as the epicenter. So yeah, it's been hit hard. But the governor, the Democrat-run county, everything else has had. I mean, today they announced, just to give you guys an idea, the county announced that landscapers can put mulch down, but they can't do any planting. So these landscapers, these small businesses that hire high school kids and young people trying to make a buck, they are allowed to mow grass and put mulch down, but they cannot landscape, plant a bush, dig stuff up. They can't do that. They're outside. They're doing. I mean, it's just asinine. I want to go back real quick just to a couple other questions that are specifically for Anna. One is, if you had a chance, once you get elected, I'm not gonna say if, once you get elected, what is there any subcommittee or committee that you would really like to be on once you became a member of the House?
I know Gates asked me this question, and one, I think just strategic for my location would be the Waterways Committee, and that's just because I'm literally on the water. But then also too, the Armed Forces Committee would be pretty good. Or I feel like right now, with everything that's happening, I want to be in an area where I can do the best, I think, for the community first that I'm supposed to be representing, and then also to the veteran community. To kind of piggyback off that, one of my huge issues that I've had is that you have so many people, and I think elected representatives as a whole, that say that they campaign on veterans issues. Sometimes not even being vets themselves, but then when they get into office, they don't actually do anything about it. Let's talk about the whole VA rating system. That is upside down and backwards. You can have someone, and I'll use my husband for an example. My husband was shot in Afghanistan, and he did make a full recovery, but his left muscle on his thigh is actually an inch shorter, and so it's jacking up his entire back. And he also has 2 compressed discs, of which he's going to need neck surgery on. He initially, and he's AGR now, so he's active guard reserve, so he's not getting paid by the VA, and he won't until he eventually separates. But his disability rating for after being shot and literally having to get neck surgery is only 10%. Yet you have people who have never seen combat and have been discharged for sometimes their thyroid, or they'll claim PTSD from military basic training, and they're getting 100% disability.
So he's probably heard this, but I mean, as someone that's went through the whole system, appeal automatically, whatever they give you, appeal, and they'll flip it right around. I learned firsthand a long time ago. They give you the bare minimum, so if you come back, then they know you really want it. It's really bad.
But it shouldn't even be like
You're
that.
right. It should.
If you've been blown up, if you've been shot, if you are genuinely messed up, why are you not getting that treatment? And yet you have people that don't even need it and are receiving it. And then here's the other thing. The VA hospitals, that's a good old boy system. So sometimes, like, our area here is not too bad, but you go to places like in Washington State or Oregon, I mean, they don't have to see you and give you the treatment that you deserve. So why not make it accessible for veterans? If you've been honorably discharged and you are covered by the VA, why are they not giving you guys vouchers to go to local areas? We have people from around the country that will drive down to this hospital because it's one of the best in the country. But what about for those people that can't drive because they have medical conditions? I mean, are they just SOL and they can't get the healthcare that they need? I mean, that's not right. So you have all of these things. And by the way, veterans now are what, less than 1% of the US population. And then they try to take benefits away from veterans and people's retirement, saying that, oh, we're getting all this money. We're less than 1% of the US population. Most of the deficit is coming from Medicare and Social Security. That's not even touching veterans issues.
Entitlement programs, right.
Exactly. If they should be able to vote people off to war and potentially get killed, you need to have their back when they get back. And so I'm a firm believer in that. I think we need representatives who, one, know the system, have connections still to it, who are level-headed with it, and not just going to take pictures with veterans, say I care, and then not do anything. And I can say that, Gates is incredible. He's actually in a very, very veteran-heavy district. He has Pensacola Naval Air Station. He has Hurlburt Field, I think even Duke Fields in his area, and Eglin Air Force Base. And so he understands, and he's one of the, I think, few civilians that's actually I've met that I'm like, okay, this guy, like, even if I, for whatever reason, didn't make it, I would still support him because he's such a heavy hitter for vets. But I mean, you have a lot of these issues that I think aren't addressed because people just don't even know where they can begin with it. And they'll say, yeah, I support veterans, wave a flag, and then that's it.
Well, they're pandering. They're pandering to veterans. I mean, that's what they're doing.
They're pandering, and it looks great in photos. You take a few pictures with vets, and then that's it. And they don't show back up and actually fix these issues. So I want to fix the VA rating system. I think it needs to be done. I want to be able to give people the opportunity to get a voucher to go to a local physician instead of having to go to the VA to get health care. And it's really sad because I do have a lot of, Vietnam veterans in my area that are still, having issues getting disability ratings for Agent Orange. We all know that Agent Orange messes people up. Why are they still going through that? Why I shouldn't have to call the VA because it's on a completely separate system to tell them, hey, this is my Social Security. Can you update? Like, I shouldn't have to do it. It should be very, very seamless. And if it's seamless to get discharged from the military, it should be seamless during the transition for any healthcare needed afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have a large part of your constituent base is veteran, so it makes sense. Besides you being a veteran, why you'd want to be on that committee. That is the people that you're going to represent, and
those are my
their
people.
concerns, right?
And I like veterans more than I like normal people sometimes because veterans understand certain things. It's like I can say something to a vet and I don't have to worry about them getting offended. It is so crazy to me that we live in this world where people get their feelings so hurt off sometimes me just having a constructive way of fixing something. If something's broken, tell me it's broken so I can fix it. I shouldn't have to sugarcoat it as to why I need you to fix this problem. Just fix the problem.
Right. Well, yeah. Go ahead, Toby.
I wanted to caveat, Troy, what you said. You have a very, veteran heavy district, and the VA, especially in your district, is special. In your district, you have there's only 4 in the entire nation polytrauma units. You got one in Palo Alto, California. You got one in St. Paul, Minnesota. You got one Audie Murphy polytrauma unit in San Antonio, Texas, and you got that one in your district. And, because of that, a lot of people do have to travel to that unit because it's one of the 4 polytrauma units. They're the lucky ones because they go to the great location. I love that facility. I was working on a film a couple years ago in Clearwater, and we were able to go over there and do some really cool stuff, with the guys and gals there. But like the rating system, that whole machine needs to be upended. And, a couple years ago, former General, then Secretary Shinseki, tried, automizing the system a little bit, taking it, let's get away from paper. Let's get to automation. Let's make it easier for medical providers to, to like communicate with each other.
Records and yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, and like, I feel bad, a lot of guys in the Army have issues with Shinseki because he changed our headgear, but the inside joke, for Troy there, the friction that was met was internal. Like we have like this bureaucracy that, I guess the cool buzzword for it today, I guess, would be deep state. But like you have like this internalized bureaucracy, like these gatekeepers that are like, oh, well, like we're going, and in the Army, we call them badge protectors. They were the jackass instructor, the cadre at the course that you were taking, that no matter how pristine you were to do it, they wanted to fail you because they couldn't stand the idea that you would have that tab or you would have that badge or you would have that thing. And like, I feel your husband. I got shrapnel in my leg, all the documentation to go with it. I can't even get a freaking appointment.
Yeah,
and I got denied. I got denied for an appointment because they're like, well, we can't justify giving you. I'm like, because like the metal in my leg, like got there when I slept. Like I went to bed.
Crazy. Yeah. And then on the back end, then you have this classification of post-traumatic stress disorder that automatically flags you. Yeah. Why is it like that? Like it shouldn't be like that, but they don't set it up in a way that I think gets people the help that they need and ensures that their constitutional rights are protected. So that crosses over. And then you have, in addition to that, okay, so then where does HIPAA, which is medical privacy, where does this play into the whole thing? So yeah, you should be worried about it. I mean, VA issues cross over with red flag laws, with constitutional rights, with privacy issues. And when you have, now we have to worry about what's happening with China. I mean, with this whole COVID thing, China's sending their drones, which basically they can pull all the information from those drones or giving them out to local police departments to fly to censor people like they're like Soviet Russia. And you have your neighbors ratting on each other. Like, really? That's a society we've become? No, I'm not okay with it.
In just 2 months. That's all it took.
In just 2 months. So I don't think I'm gonna have a lot of friends, but I do have Gates. He'll be my ally, and I'm okay with that.
Well, you got a couple friends here.
Yep.
I got some people that live in your district. Shout out, Miss. I probably shouldn't say their names since they're all at McDill doing important work for a certain command there. So I guess I probably shouldn't say them out loud. But
we'll call them later and have them vote for me and spread.
Oh,
my
they're
name.
watching. They're watching. I see them. they know what's up. So
we had another question real quick, Toby, from our good buddy Doug from Gears for Grunts. He asked, once you win and get in there, what is one of the first bills you would want to introduce? What is there one that you talked about the VA rating system and this and that, but is there one that you've kind of been, kind of thinking about, like if I were to, if I win the lottery, I would do this. Once you get in.
If there's one bill, and this is just, I think just my own personal, like I want to do this because it needs to happen. And I'll tell you a little bit of story about me traveling and everything. I was so irritated that when I was driving, I was stationed at Portland Guard for a little bit, having to drive from Washington State through Oregon to California. I could carry in Washington, then I could carry in Oregon because I had to reapply, get a separate concealed carry in the state of Oregon. And then when I got to the Oregon-California border, I actually had to break apart my gun to put it in the trunk and separate it so that I didn't get arrested, even though I could carry in other states, so that I could travel through Murder Mountain and Northern California, which is one of the most dangerous places. Probably
Emerald Triangle.
I couldn't even carry so that I could drive down there. And here I am, a little peanut driving my car at 2:00 in the morning. I want to push hard for a national concealed carry. I want to push so hard for that. And, talking about what happened with the pandemic, how Trump actually classified gun stores as necessary. Interesting that they're not reporting that that crimes actually dropped as gun sales increased. Isn't that an interesting correlation? So I think that if you really want to help, especially some places that are inner city areas, let's do a national concealed carry. We don't need all the nonsense. Why should I have to reapply in Oregon when Oregon took literally every single day that they said it might take 60 days to get your concealed carry, versus in Washington, I had it in a week because it's a quicker process. It shouldn't be like that. And so now I have a concealed carry in Washington, Oregon, Florida, and I've had the one in Florida since I was stationed here. But it shouldn't be like that. So that's, I think, one of the first things that I want to push. And then the second thing I would like to do, and I was actually talking to Giuliani about this, but I want to help with investigating what happened with China's response and why we're paying through the nose, really to protect some of these interest groups that are really lobbying in DC that have ties to China. I don't think that we should be doing that. In fact, I think China owes us. And so I'd like to help open up an investigation on that.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. National concealed carry is definitely an important one. We're almost there, right? The House, thanks to Congressman Nunn, right, that the House has passed it. They passed national reciprocity. The Senate, and I tell people this all the time, the Senate, you can see from a few signs behind me, this stuff's important to me, is sitting on McConnell. It only takes McConnell to push it forward. He has yet to bring it to the floor of the Senate to vote on. The president, during his campaign in 2016, said he would approve, he would sign a bill for national reciprocity. So,
as well as the Hearing Act.
Yeah.
And the Hearing Act got shelved after Vegas. That was interesting. The Hearing Protection Act one.
Yeah.
or silencers.
Yeah.
I think what's been interesting is that, especially with what's happening now, you have like people think that the NRA is this like big bad organization. The NRA is literally people like us who give $25 or like pay the yearly or lifetime subscription. That's run by the people. They're actually really are fighting, and same with Gun Owners of America for gun rights. But the thing is that you have to have people that can again put down those cards when they do come up against some of the really hardcore funded left-wing organizations and arguments as to what happens with the Second Amendment. It shouldn't be like that, but again, it's the situation that we're in. So I could very, very much so shoot down any argument, whether it's in regards to, well, what happens in gun shooting situations at schools, what happens in personal, if you're at home alone, home invasions, what happens if you need to because you're in an armed robbery. I mean, unfortunately, at the time, I wasn't happy that I had gone through all that stuff, but now it's actually an amazing argument against some of these people, and I've lived it. And so I think to bring that to the table is very heavy hitting. And if you have people that are vocal enough, if you are a representative, you have a very big microphone, so you can call for that support to push that through. And I think that that's what's needed right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. And Toby, I know you had some more stuff I don't want to take on, but you've covered a number of things. Looking at your site, right? VoteAnnaPaulina.com. People can check you out there and see there. You talk about Twitter verifying you. You talk about you talk about Blaze TV. You've been on the national stage. What do you think is next? I mean, as you're going through this campaign, what are you hearing? Are you running polls? What is the thought from your campaign team? Are you hearing nervous things from Charlie Crist, or is he getting worried?
Charlie won't even come for me because, as it stands, my platform dwarfs his. And a couple of times I actually called him out, and he actually changed his discussion in regards to how he addressed something. After the Pensacola terrorist attack, he actually called it gun violence within the community. And he also put out anti-gun rhetoric about why we needed to get guns off the street, even though we know that this was Muslim terrorists that had infiltrated an American base, orchestrated something, and shot up Pensacola Naval Air Station. He called it gun violence within the community. So after that happened, I tore him up pretty good. And he's just been dodging me. I think he hopes that I go away, but I'm not going to go away. And so the general consensus is that people, and especially now, they're looking for candidates that are not your average, I think, establishment candidate. I'm not that person. And I've never been that person. I'm not a DC insider. I'm not a pharmaceutical lobbyist like, some other people that are in the race that I'm running against. The person that I am is very visible. You can see the organizations and the work that I've done. I'm very open about my platform and stances, and I'm not afraid to say it. So we actually won a straw poll, which was a huge deal, because there's this coffee shop called Conservative Grounds, and they're an incredible coffee shop. They actually have a miniature Oval Office in the middle of this coffee shop. They're very pro-Trump, but they're very connected within the local community. And so they did a 5-minute video. I've done multiple events and platforms where people hear me speak. And I think that they know that this is mine to take if I want it. So I'm doing it. I'm not giving up. I'm leveraging everything I have. And Charlie will not be able to come up against someone like myself. So I just have to make it through that primary on August 18th, and then it's smooth sailing. And I know that after the primary, especially being that Trump needs this area to win that election, I'm hoping to get the endorsement of President Trump, which I think I'll get. So fingers crossed.
Oh, we wish you the best, and we're excited for you. To all my people listening that live in the 13th district, go check out your girl. Go check her out. And we got the website right there in the chat room. There it is. Yep. And so follow her on the socials, unverified on Twitter.
You got to get the socials up on your site, though. You got to get them up on your
site. I'm going to go check afterwards and be like, did you guys remove my social links off my Twitter? I'm actually going to check right after this. I'm going to call my digital guy and be like, okay, we need to talk.
I went to the top. I went to the bottom. I couldn't find them. I was like, what? I know you had to be.
Yeah, it should definitely be on there.
But check you out. Where can interested legal parties contribute to your campaign, contribute to
So
your cause, support you?
yes, I can take donations from anywhere in the country. So even if you live out of state, you can donate to me. You can head over to voteannapaulina.com. It's ANNA and then Paulina, PAULINA.com. And then just click on the donation link and you can see the amounts that you can do. You can even be a recurring donor if you want to donate like 20 bucks here, 20 bucks there, 20 bucks on the 1st and the 15th of every month if you're still in. It's the way that's going to help me get into office. And my average donation is $20. And so we've been able to really
Awesome.
run a grassroots campaign that's, built, not bought. That's my campaign slogan. I'm not going to be a bot politico, and I don't really care if people don't like that. I'm here to make a difference and to help out. And again, I'm for term limits. I'm pro-life, pro-God, pro-gun, anti-socialist. And so if you like what you see, then go ahead and donate.
Love it.
There we go. That you hit on Anna. Is it Anna or Anna? What does it go by?
I go by Anna. It's
Okay,
funny though, because my family's like torn on it. Because like my mom's side of the family will sometimes say Anna, and then my dad's side says Anna, and then even half my mom. So I think my family's conflicted.
All right. Well, is there anything else we didn't? We covered a lot of topics tonight. Hopefully, we hit on. I think we hit on a lot of good things that to highlight what you stand for and what your campaign and platform is about. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you feel is really important? You want to get the message out to our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, if you guys can, you should be getting involved. I think part of the reason right now that we haven't seen the change that we want is because people are afraid of taking that initial step. I mean, it's politics. Yeah, you're going to roll with the punches, but I think if you've gone through the military, you'll be fine. People, the biggest question that I ask is, how do you deal with the personal tax? I don't care. People are going to make stuff up. They do that anyways. If you're successful, people are going to talk smack. That's just how it is. So, you should be getting involved. That's still continuing oath to country, and that's what you did in the military. So you should continue in your civilian life. And I just wish the best for all of you tuning in and listening. And I really hope to make a difference for the veteran community.
Awesome. Well, hey, we will definitely stay in touch with us. We want to keep up on how it's going. And if you have any changes or as things progress along, keep us in mind. We'd love to have you back on again. You've developed a lot of fans here tonight. I can tell you that the chatter has been going crazy. And I wouldn't be surprised if you started seeing some donations from out of state. But hey, thank you so much for coming on and giving us some of your Thursday night. We really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Talk soon, and God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
Right,
have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody, there you go. Anna Paulina Luna, the real deal right there. Oh, what happened to my... You know what, Toby? I hate when this happens. I'm going to have to do some stuff here. Hold on. I got to reconfigure.
Well, while you're reconfiguring,
you talk.
So it's great having her on. Wonderful candidate. Love her weapon stance, and it just was ringing so true because I've been stationed in Washington State. I've had to travel. I've been stationed in California where, you can't get concealed. I've been stationed in Florida where when I was in processing, I filled out my CCW paperwork in processing.
Right.
And it was a matter of I felt like I might've got licensed that day almost. It was awesome. So I love her stance on that stuff. I love, the idea that we need to go that way. I do not understand why the Constitution of the United States is good in some towns and some states and not good in others when it comes to guns. I don't understand how certain towns, cities, municipalities can ban something that's on the Constitution. I think that's just the one thing that just drives me nuts. And I know it's a 10th Amendment issue, and what's more important, the second or the 10th, but I hope that that goes through. I hope that gets passed, because I think every American, regardless of state, regardless of city, regardless of location, should have every aspect of the Constitution at their fingertips. See what I did there? When they need it. Speaking of guns, we were going to get into it yesterday, but we didn't. During this time, Canada has experienced its worst mass shooting in history. And the Prime Minister of Canada has done a couple of things. One, he's demonstrated that he's the ultimate in hypocrites. He, did this whole stay-at-home order, don't travel, even said for Easter weekend, love your neighbor. You know, that's what Jesus would do. The best way to love your neighbor is to like not leave your house. And then proceeded to like take his entire family on a Easter weekend trip to go visit family in another province. So like total hypocrite under this, and they've been able to kind of sweep it under the rug. So like all my Canadian listeners right now, some are going to get mad, some are going to, you know, cheer, but they really swept the worst mass shooting in Canadian history under the rug due to COVID-19.
Yeah.
They were able to like bury it in the news cycle, and they were able to bury a lot of the facts. It did get a little bit of press, but it really didn't get the coverage it should have got. And
did it get more press in Canada? Because it didn't get it here. And I was talking to one of my guys I work with who lives in Canada. We talked about that today, and I was like, it just didn't get it here, except for the day it happened. Right? That's all we saw.
My understanding is it didn't get much press there either. And all the press that I've seen on it here is Canadian based, and which it wasn't that much. And, you know, like, you know, they tried sweeping under the rug, you know, like this is something that escalated, you know, in a domestic scenario is what they're saying. But, you know, they're hiding some like major facts. And when I say they're hiding some major facts, this isn't conspiracy theory. This guy bought a vehicle that was the same make and model as what the police, the Mounties, if you will,
yep,
that they use. Took the time to paint it and build decals to adorn it so that it looked
lights, everything,
like everything. So it looked like a law enforcement vehicle, and then took commonly owned weapons, not assault weapons, took commonly owned weapons, and went on a rampage.
Oh, hold on.
So this
also got a uniform. Like you got to get that from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So like, didn't just like get mad at his girlfriend and then do something to her.
It doesn't match up at all. It doesn't match up.
This was definitely a premeditated, highly planned, and effort-filled execution of task. Now, the weapons that he used, he didn't get legally. He gained these illegally, and the weapons in response during COVID-19, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, did a executive order, which is far and deep reaching, to which they banned over 1,500 types of assault weapons.
And that was just recently, right? Like just.
Yeah, no, just like last week.
Yeah, last week.
So here's the thing, though. Like, this is because he is the leader of a country that doesn't have the Constitution that the United States have. They have a Constitution, but it doesn't have the Bill of Rights. It doesn't have the amendments. You know, so like he can just go and say this, and so it is said, so it is written, so it is done. You know, this isn't an issue for debate. This isn't an issue for anything. And, you know, the Canadian Federation of Firearm Licensees, or what the CFFL, or I'm saying it wrong, which is the Canadian equivalent to the NRA, who are not litigious like the NRA are. They're typically, you know, a group of enthusiasts that, you know, like support certain things, don't support other things. But for the most part, like, they're not a super litigious group. They are getting litigious. The director of the CFFL like came out and was like, we typically don't get involved in any of this stuff because that's not why we do it. We're enthusiasts, but we're getting involved. We are suing the Canadian government, and they're trying.
What's he giving them? Like a couple of months, like a month or two to turn them in or get rid of them, or something like that.
And you know, like, and here's the thing: is like, if the government's buying your gun back, it's bullshit, because that's your money. Like, you're buying, you got to buy.
It's your tax dollars.
Right. But they did this in such a hurry and so far-reaching that they banned things that they didn't even know what they were banning.
Sounds like Governor Cuomo in the SAFE Act, if I must say so myself, right?
So I made the comment yesterday about, you know, failed Operation Gideon down in Venezuela. And one of the weapons that they captured was an airsoft rifle. right? So like they captured this airsoft
there had to
rifle
be a case. There had to be a case where they needed non-lethal, and they just really wanted to annoy somebody. I'm assuming.
Right. That's why, like, I made the joke last night, because in this bill they banned a airsoft rifle because they didn't realize that it's not an actual firearm. So like
it's almost like they read the duffel
model
blog
and nomenclature of this airsoft, but they didn't even research to find out like that's actually not a gun.
It's almost like they read duffel blog or the Onion and thought it was a real story.
They kind of but you know, so that's going on, and I think every, you know, government in the world is doing things. We talked was it Hungary? Was it the Hungarian parliament, you know, gave the prime minister of Hungary indefinite total executive power. We're seeing this stuff. We need to be thankful that we live in this great nation. We need to be thankful for that Bill of Rights. We need to be thankful for that Constitution, and we need to be thankful for leaders and members of our community that are willing to say like, no, like, well, I'm not trying to like make anybody sick, and I'm not trying to get anyone killed due to a health concern. I do have the right to speak out against you. I do have the right to exercise these rights. That doesn't trump the Bill of Rights. And you know, I think one thing that we're learning is, I'm going to use your great governor as an example. That dude said that there should be repercussions for someone that doesn't wear a mask. He said that it is disrespectful for someone to like be in public and not wear a mask, and how dare they could literally kill them with the germs coming off their body.
You know how bad that is? You know how bad that is? It's almost as bad as you calling him a great governor, but I'll let that one go because we're a long ways away from each other, and I love you, but you called him a great governor.
I don't think I said great governor.
You did.
I was being sarcastic.
You were being sarcastic, but it
okay.
shook me a little bit. It hurt right there.
Yeah, no, like he's not.
Okay.
And
I don't want our viewers to think that you were like, you know, you're the Combs to my Hannity or something. Or
no, sir. I do not support but as he's saying that, he's standing on a panel or sitting at a table on a panel without a mask on,
right?
Doing exactly what he's saying people should be punished. When you see the mayor of New York City, you know, giving people stay-at-home orders and traveling across into a different borough so he can go to a different park.
Well, you know, his brother,
you know,
the famed host of CNN, right? His brother was outside getting in fights with dudes on bikes with no mask on when he was supposedly locked in a basement, right? Yeah.
Like, so I think we've come out that old Fredo Como there Jr. is like straight up a fraud, right?
Right.
You know, the guy's sitting there doing this with 100-pound dumbbell, and the dumbbell's not sliding on his hands. He's lifting fake weights.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that being serious. Like, this dude's not doing tricep curls with the arms that he has. When you look at the way the weight moves, you're not doing tricep curls.
He went to the Brian Williams. He went to the Brian Williams School of Journalism and the Graduate School of Dan Rather. That's where he went.
Yeah.
Right?
No, like that dude's like straight up a fraud on everything that he is. But hey, great show, back to back. We've been going for an hour and a half.
Yeah. A lot to cover.
For tuning in.
Yeah.
What a wonderful candidate for Congress, and what a wonderful member of Congress Anna Paulina is going to be. Please go to her website, check her out, follow her on the socials. You can find her on Prager. You can find her on Fox. You can find her on all things.
Fox
she's
Business.
Awesome.
Yeah, everywhere. And
she is.
A lot of people
representation
that
the veteran community needs.
We were from our main chat on my watch party. A lot of comments. Taco was in my watch party, talking about, you know, that we need more like her. We had a number of people in chat. You know, I made the offhanded, the joke saying I'm ready to move down to 13th, and we had several people comment the same thing.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, right. And not the Me Too movement. Right. So I mean, we got comments on YouTube and everywhere, but you know, she was a great guest. I would definitely want to keep in touch. We could have probably talked another hour with her. Someone made a comment that you were talking about the AOC never debating anybody. I mean, she didn't need a script. Anna didn't need talking points. She just went from her heart and from her head and just rattled it off. Right. I'm excited to watch her win and see what she can do. And it'll be awesome because we'll be like, yeah, we had her on back in the day. So like I put on the blog post today, she's been on a lot of media outlets. She can now add Stu and the Nun there and hopefully move that one to the top of the list. But great guest tonight, man. Back to back doubleheader. We thank everyone for tuning in and for giving up some of their Thursday night, and for those that also gave up Wednesday night. And if you didn't, go back and watch them. You can always go back and check them all out. We had a lot to cover. We didn't get on Flynn. We didn't get on any of the stuff going on with him. We didn't get on we talked a little bit about the salon owner. A ton of topics. You know, Toby, it's almost.
Well, let's do Flynn real fast. Because,
you want to try to get Flynn in real quick?
Yeah, real quick, because this will be fast. Because you heard it here first. I said he's not getting pardoned because he's getting exonerated.
You did. That was last week, right? Was it last week? Was that last Thursday?
You heard it here. Heard it here. I called it. I go, he's not wasting a pardon.
That's right. You did say
a guy he knows is going to get exonerated.
Yes. Toby's got the inside track.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's it.
Nailed it.
Someone's got friends in high places. But, yeah. So, anyways, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Be sure you tune in next Thursday here on Stu and the Nun. Toby, do you have the calendar up? I don't have the calendar up to see who we got. Because I know Rob, our awesome producer, has definitely found someone, so I'm trying to bring it up as fast as I can because I was not ready for it. But tune in next Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, here on Stu and the Nun. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell people you like, tell people you don't like. I want to look at this and be like, we have nobody for next week, and I don't think we do. Wow. Okay, we will have somebody, because we don't right now. So tune in anyways. There's no shortage of things to talk about. Everyone have a great week. Stay safe. Do the right thing. Do the smart thing. Don't always believe everything you hear. Look into it yourself, I guess is probably the best advice. So with that being said, Toby, anything else, my friend?
No, I still miss hockey.
Yes, we still miss hockey. Did you hear they may come back for a mini season? They may come back. There's a mini play, and there's a chance the Sabres may make a mini playoff. I read a story on because of just, I don't know, some magic in the air. I can't figure it out, but I'll go with it. So we'll see. But yes, we still miss hockey. All right.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out. You know, I've seen a couple of different plans where they play in like only certain locations, and everybody plays in those locations, and they do like almost like a tournament style.
Do you think they're gonna have they make them all wear full face shield, no wire mask? You think maybe full face shield? I don't know. Because they only wear half. Kids wear full. Adults wear like
Well, then there's like people that are grandfathered, you know, that were in before whatever the cutoff was that don't have to wear anything.
Right.
You know, they
don't care about their face. It's been banged up a little bit.
Yeah, like I don't know how they're gonna do that. You know, honestly, I think a hockey player is like probably the least likely demographic in terms of like health. I know the NBA had some concerns because like they had, you know, some people test positive early on.
Yeah.
But I believe they all recovered. I didn't see any sad stories about people not.
Yeah.
But I know the UFC are holding an event in Florida this weekend, UFC 249 headlining Ferguson versus Gaethje. Really impressive card. You know, like they're trying to get back to doing it. You know, the fake one, the WWE. You know, they're still trying to put out, you know, entertainment and content. So I think they could probably figure out how to get some of these sports leagues back. You know, it's going to be interesting how they do it. You know, I think, you know, people will pay the extra money to watch their team in a smaller stadium. You know, like, you know, like I'd rather be closer to the action. I'd rather not have someone stepping all over me every 5 minutes and spilling beer. I'd pay extra money to have that seat.
To have that empty seat right next to me.
Yeah. If you ask my wife, she'll tell you that there is an empty seat next to us all season long, as we're season ticket holders here for the AHL team, the Texas Stars, and that's because like my wife doesn't want anyone sitting next to us, so I have to pay for an extra seat every year.
That's where the coats go. That's where the coats go.
It's where the coats and the popcorn go for sure. Yeah,
that's right.
We get that extra cup holder for the spare beer.
That's right. You always got to have the second one on tap.
Spare beer.
You don't want to be waiting in that line twice. Pay $13 for every beer, get them all at once. But
no. So hopefully we get that back. I miss hockey. I miss sports. I miss seeing you, man.
I know. I was about to say
I'm ready for you to come back down. So
I'm ready to get back down to Austin. You know, the second they lift this thing, I'm southbound. I'm heading that way. But all right, man, because I just got to hang out with Chuck. I just got to hang out with the puppies. I was out with Bella Via a couple weeks ago. I'm cool with social distance. I'm not worried about that with what we've been through. So even though some people like making comments about me and Chuck being side by side. So, anyways, all right, everyone, you guys have a good night. Thank you so much, and thank you to our audience, and appreciate all you guys being here. You like that? All right, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Everyone have a good night. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.